So the end of the 2025 season was wild. And on his way out the door towards Miami, but we didn't know this yet, Mark Richt was talking about some mistakes he had made while he was the coach at Georgia, the head coach at Georgia. And one of the things he talked about was not being as involved with the quarterbacks as he felt like he should have been. And this was, a tumultuous season, certainly in 2015, excuse me. And he said, if I had to do it over again, I'd be a lot more involved. So you fast forward to, I think it was a couple of weeks later, maybe a couple of days later, and it was a couple of days later, and Kirby Smart was introduced as Georgia's head coach. It's whatever 12th, 15th, whatever it's been. And he said he was asked a question, are you going to be involved in everything? And he stopped for a second because I don't think he knew quite what was being asked. Are you going to be, and his answer was, I'm going to be involved in everything. And I don't think that's been anything but the truth since. Kirby Smart in Georgia today agreeing to another extension of his contract or a new contract. I'm not sure if I'm totally clear on that part yet. That stuff comes out over time. But it's another. It's not surprising this is coming. There are a couple of things that set this into motion over time. First of all, Georgia didn't do a new contract for Kirby after the 2022 national championship. So that was something that this was coming no matter what along the way. And, when he got to Georgia, it took a little time for things to get right for Kirby and the program, frankly. And it didn't take as long as people. Well, there's a couple ways to look at this, but anyway, I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this new agreement was ratified, if you will, by University of Georgia's athletic executive board on Thursday afternoon. And it just shows another step in this commitment, this marriage between the two sides. I mean, Kirby's been involved at Georgia in some way or another since he signed to start playing in the 1994 season. So he's slightly older than I am. He redshirted that first year. They were not great, and then of course the 6-6 season in '95, which set in motion Jim Donnan, then eventually Mark Richt, and then eventually Kirby Smart. And thinking back on that December day in '15. I remember it was Fletcher Page and I, of course, were talking quite a bit at the time because of working so long together. He's with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution now, but we thought this would work. We didn't know how long it would take, but we thought this would work. Now, let me just say this before I get started on the other on that train of thought to get us to where we got to go. Today, you only have 3 head coaches in college football right now who have national championships. You've got Kirby and Dabo; they both have 2. You've got Mack Brown, who, I mean, I don't mean this sort of in a disrespectful way, but like nobody's really, sorry about the lighting. I don't know what's going on here with me, but nobody's taking Mack Brown seriously. He's not going to challenge, Clemson and the ACC, Georgia. That's just not going to happen. So it's just what it is. But there's only 3 guys left. And when Nick left, Nick's contract at Alabama, if I'm not mistaken, always stipulated that he'd be the highest paid head coach. And then you had Dabo's agreement. And I don't know how that will play. This just sort of merry-go-round of the coaches. Well, one of the coaches is gone now that affected the others, which was Nick. And then, Dabo, I don't think he was asked about the Alabama job, but he didn't take it. But I'm sure that he will benefit from, still being the Clemson coach later this year as it relates to a contract. Oh, I see what's happening. Well, y'all just have to live with that. So he'll probably get something later in the year, which is fine. But and then that Kirby not getting renewed, not renegotiating or not negotiating, whatever you want to call it, during right after a national championship win. I mean, all that's going on there is you knew this was coming. It was just a matter of time, and now that part's complete. But how long does this mean that he'll coach for? I don't know. I don't think there's when you talk to people behind the scenes, or you talk to informed people, put it to you like that way, either way you want to slice it. There's two there's two lines of thinking on this. One is, this guy's going to coach a little bit longer, and like that's going to be it. He's not going to coach as long. He's not going to coach into his 70s. He's not going to do all that. And then there's another camp that feels like, and this is the camp that I'm in, which is like, I'm not sure you can pull him away from this. Like, this is something he's extremely passionate about. And again, he's not my friend. I don't know him. We don't talk. I don't have beef with him or anything like that. But he's not my buddy, so I don't know those things. But my suspicion is he'll do it until he doesn't want to, and I think he's not close to not wanting to do it anytime soon, frankly, because you know he has the he has the ability, in theory, to put his alma mater on top for good in a way that Nick did at Alabama, and in a way that really nobody else has. Can he do that? Yeah, he can. I mean, I think he can. The only thing, and this is not funny to me, the only thing that will prevent something like that happening would be, some health related thing. And, none of us are getting younger. And, I don't, I think just like Miss Terry said with Nick, if Mary Beth ever says, hey, listen, let's check out, I mean, that's probably going to be it. That's going to be it. I mean, it's just going to be how it goes. But he's still got young children. I mean, his youngest child, I think, is 11 or 10, somewhere in that universe. So, he's already his children and their entire lives have lived with their father being either a prominent a prominent assistant coach at a major brand, or the head coach. I don't think his youngest son can recall a time that he was the head guy, that he was assistant coach at Alabama. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. I don't really have any interest in asking him about it. I doubt that. So this has been going on for a while. I don't think it's going to stop. And if you think like, what else could change? Everything has changed. NIL, transfer portal, the landscape of the SEC, the college football playoff, all of those things have changed. So people say, well, maybe something else. Well, what will change? Like, they'll add two more teams to the college football playoff. That stuff's not really necessarily going to change. And by the time there's some sort of other fundamental change, we're talking about 10 to 15 years down the road. It would completely make sense for Kirby no longer to be the head coach at Georgia. He might not be alive. None of us, I might not be alive. Who knows? So when I talk about the family, I'm not talking about the family just to like insert them into this. That is a major factor in any of these coaches' lives. They're human beings. Amazingly, they are human beings. They don't always act like it, but they are. So I think for Kirby, for Georgia, they're very fortunate. Now, I will say this too. With Dabo, I'm not sure a lot of people can do what he did at Clemson. I think there's a finite amount of people that can make that work. Clemson, Auburn, perhaps Texas A&M, but definitely Clemson, Auburn. They're kind of a lot of people can win at Georgia. Now, a lot of people can win at Georgia, Florida, LSU. I would say Alabama. You got to still get the right fit, and Kirby clearly is the right fit. The first year he was in Athens, I have to say, looking back on it, I think he was very patient with his own process. And I bet that was not a lot of fun. I bet that was not a lot of fun for him. No. And then, about 12 months to 18 months into it, I think he felt like he had a very good grasp as to what was going on. And it would be hard, I think the biggest moment in Kirby's time that wasn't on a field was when Nick, Sony, Lorenzo, everybody, Davin, they all decided to come back. And that was in middle December of 16. And then they just took it from there. Just like I said earlier, Georgia should win national championships. That's not like chest thumping or anything. Georgia should win national championships. So should the Gators. So should LSU. Alabama, SC, Ohio State. There are teams that should win the national championship. Georgia's gone too long without that. And now in 366 days, now or 364, whatever it was, he won two in that condensed period of time. So the euphoria of the Alabama game, the win in the national championship game, was replaced by the complete destruction of everybody on their schedule that was not Missouri and Ohio State. I mean, y'all, when you're on the sideline and you're just like, what, this game is over and there's 10 minutes left to go before halftime, or that's just like there is no trepidation, fear, angst, nothing when they play Florida. They feel like they're going to destroy them. Those two programs are not in the same space right now, and maybe they will get back to the same space soon. But that's what he's done. And there's been bad too, but for the vast majority of this Kirby stuff has been superb. I was talking with somebody at the university, not in athletics, and they were talking about how it has really mattered in terms of the exposure for the university. There's no question stuff like that matters. There's no question. Georgia was already, making its way up there. And you want to freak a Georgia Tech person out? Talk to them about academics at Georgia. That's when they've been beaten down long enough about athletics. They know they're beyond pissed at their situation. You talk to them about academics, they get real sensitive about that quick. And Georgia's not what Tech is, but they're inching closer and closer, and it really freaks those guys out. And this stuff, it all adds together. There could be change in the future as it relates to, payment of players directly from the institutions. It could become more like a GM situation. You'll need a GM. I don't know what that will be, but I don't think that stuff fundamentally changes the dichotomy for Kirby Smart and his, program or his desires at Georgia. I don't think it does. Now, you never know what you don't know in the future, but to me, the near future looks like, Georgia, Ohio State, those two particularly, Texas. I think Alabama's not dead at all. Those four will have a lot to say about the next, 3 years of college football, and Kirby will be in the middle of that. So we'll just see how this goes. Kirby Smart agreeing to an agreement is just not surprising at all. It's something that Georgia. I should have asked Josh Brooks some time ago about this, but there's just been no fear that whatever you want to call it. Like, he was never given Georgia the Jim Harbaugh treatment. He wants to be the coach at Georgia. He's not interested in coaching the Falcons. Why? Why would you want to go away from total control? He has total control. Okay, that again, that's not always great, but he has that. And if you go to coach in the NFL, that's why these coaches like Ryan Day, etc., they won't ever. I mean, that's just not. It's just a different type of football. You don't control as much. Right now, Kirby can go sign the best 25 players, and everybody else can go from 26 to 50 and beyond. Now, that doesn't happen, but my point is, it's a completely capitalistic, no rules applied situation. That's not what the NFL is. They've got salary caps and all that. He's just not going. I mean, that would be shocking to me in the near future. But I think it's a big day for Georgia. It's not surprising, and we'll just see where this goes. But another extension or a new contract agreement with Kirby and the Dogs. We'll see where he takes it from here. Thanks for watching.